iOS 17 has many more features than we thought, but there are two things that are ruining this update for me. So we're going to discuss that along with more new features that I did not cover in my What's New video, the battery life, and when to expect the next beta. And as always, if you want to stay updated with everything new in the world of Apple, along with many more iOS 17 videos, hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to receive the best Apple newsletter in your inbox every week, sign up for the free Apple Den newsletter linked down below. All right, so let's start with even more iOS 17 features and changes. And the first thing has to do with QR code scanning. So if you scan a QR code, you will notice that now the link shows up in the bottom middle, whereas before in iOS 16, you'd kind of have to follow it around and chase it around the screen. And then when you went away from the QR code, it would show up at the bottom where we have it by default now in iOS 17. So it's just a little bit easier to press on the link for that QR code. And speaking of the camera application, if you go into your camera settings and go under composition, we have a new toggle here for level. So there's now a built-in leveler in the camera application for both stills and for videos. You need to hold your phone upright and then you will see that you have a built-in leveler that will tell you if your shot is straight or if it's off balance. If you take a screenshot and tap on the plus in the bottom right hand corner, you will notice a few differences here. So first off, we have the stickers that you can add up top. Opacity is now at the very bottom, whereas before it was 3 levels up. And then also, instead of just showing the shapes to choose from, we just have a thing that says add shape, a little section here that says add shape. It's also much easier to choose a shape now. So not only do we have additional shapes like the star and different ones like that, but it's also easier to choose them. Like if I choose a circle, for example, take a look at the difference here. So before you kind of just had this little button here. It wasn't really clear how to manipulate these shapes, but now you have much more control over the shapes in terms of the colors, in terms of the thickness, in terms of the opacity. Everything is just much more clear and easier to kind of customize these shapes in iOS 17. And if we go into a photo that we want to crop, if you start zooming in on a photo, you will notice that we get this crop button that appears up top. So it makes it much easier to crop now as you're zooming in. So if we do that and then tap on crop, there you go. It even keeps our spot that we're at. So a much easier way to crop here in iOS 17. Live photos are back in iOS 17. So if you go to a live photo in your photo library and you go to add as wallpaper or use as wallpaper, you will notice that we have a new button down here in the bottom left hand corner that has a play on it. So if you can turn that off if you don't want it to have motion, but if you want that live photo to play on your lock screen, you will have that enabled by default. And if you go ahead and tap on add, we will add this to our lock screen. I'll show you guys how this looks on the lock screen. So if we lock our device and then unlock it, you will see that we have kind of a slow motion little effect of the live photos there. Now I do wish we had some customization to make this longer, or maybe to have it loop and continuously play, but that's kind of all we have for now. It only does it when you unlock your device, or when you press your device when you're about to go unlock it. I've had a lot of people ask me if you can have multiple offline maps, and the answer to that is yes. So you can see here, once you download a map in the Maps application, you have another option below to download a new map. And you also have some additional settings once you download your first piece of the map. Of course, you can choose like where you want to download, but you have automatic updates, so you can automatically update that offline map if something changes with the streets or the street names. You have optimized storage, and you can only use offline maps if you would like to. So if you don't want to use internet, for when you're actually navigating, you can turn that on to only use offline maps. We have a change in the Books application, but while I was going there, I noticed that we have these little shortcuts to open up certain parts of the Books application. Like if I wanted to play the current audiobook, or if I wanted to open the current book, I can now do that straight from the Spotlight search. I touched on, parts of that in my What's New video, but now you can see it for the Books application. But we do also have another change here in Books. We're going to search for a book that has multiple books in the series, because we have a new series page inside of the Books application. So if I go to one of these books here, you will see when you go on the book, it says book 30 in Alex Cross. Now, if you go to that, it will show you the collection. This is a brand new UI for the collection, the series, I should say, and it shows up top. It's a series with 33 books. You can sample one book for free, and you will get all the books laid out in a very nice manner here. And there's a lot of UI changes, small changes in the Books application as well, with the fonts, where the buttons are. Everything just looks cleaner and better, but this new series page is really nice. Also in the Shortcuts application, if you go down to some of the default shortcuts that Apple has made, you will see some differences. So we have some UI differences here for the Books and the Clock shortcuts. So these have a little bit of a new UI, and you can see also down here for all of these as well, that has changed. Now if we go to automation, there's also a new automation. If we tap on plus, we have a new way to start a automation, which is via transaction. So for example, when I tap a wallet card or a pass, that will do a certain action. So you can now set automations via transactions. And when you go into here, you could also choose the transaction type. So if it's a payment, if it's identity, like your digital ID, if it's transit, you can choose that. And you could also choose if it's the Apple Card, Apple Cash, and you could also run immediately or after confirmation. Oh, and speaking of shortcuts, there's a big change on the lock screen. So now you have a lock screen widget for shortcuts. So this is big because there was a lot of third-party applications like LockFlow, LockView, Lock Launcher, all these different applications that would essentially do what this new shortcut does. So now if we go ahead and add shortcuts, you can run a shortcut straight from your lock screen, which means you can set that to open up an application. So now you can open up an application from your lock screen, which is kind of what all those third-party applications did before iOS 17. And man, I was just going to open up the Reminders application, and again, I get these little shortcuts inside of the Reminders application before I even go in. I just love that. So if we go into Reminders, we have a couple of changes here as well that I did not cover. I mentioned the new column view, but I didn't really talk about it. The new sections view, but I didn't really actually show it. So here's what different sections look like inside of Reminders. So if you go to the three dots up in the top right, you will notice that we have a new part here, a new little section for manage sections, where you can add or edit sections in a reminder, so in a specific reminder list. So if I go to my sections and add a section, you can see you could add different sections for your reminders, just a little bit more advanced here. Now also, if you go to create a reminder and you set a due date, we have a new section here for early reminder. And this is huge because in iOS 16, when I set reminders, sometimes I would forget to do it because I wouldn't actually get a reminder until that, task was due. But now I can get an early reminder before the due date for that task. And that is huge. If I needed a 2-hour lead time to get something done, I can now get a 2-hour early reminder before it's actually due. In the home application, if we go to one of our smart lights, so I'll go to my Nanoleafs, for example, we have a new color picker right here. So if we tap on that, we can choose the light color that we want along with the temperature. And also if you wanted to choose that color from a swatch, you could do that there along with the brightness, and you even have preset saved colors down here as well. So very handy to have straight in the home app. There's also a couple of changes for alarms. So I'm going to set an alarm that goes off in 1 minute, and you will notice that there's a new UI for the alarm along with a new UI for canceling snooze from the lock screen. So we're going to go ahead and lock our device, and you will see that we have snooze right here. So I just automatically snoozed it, and now we have an X right to the left. So it's much easier now to snooze, or cancel a snooze rather, from the lock screen. So if we go ahead and tap on X, there we go, that snooze has been canceled. And if our alarm goes off while the device is unlocked, you will notice that the alarm is now actually in the dynamic island. So it's no longer a notification that comes from the top. The alarm is now in the dynamic island, and it also has these little Z's for snooze, or an X if you want to close out of that alarm and stop the alarm. Now, one of the big new safety features is inside of privacy and security, and then down here for sensitive content warning. So if you have this turned on, this detects nude photos and videos before they are viewed. This is what you will see in the messages application. So it says this may be sensitive, and you have a little warning sign up in the top right. And then if you tap on show in the bottom right, it will just show the image right away. It will give you a warning though. In the messages application, if you tap on the plus right here, we already know that this new menu is kind of cool, but it's also, I don't know, it's kind of bulky. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think it's better than the iOS 16, but it's not the best. However, that's not what we're talking about. I wanted to mention that you could actually move these menu items. So for example, if I liked audio being near the top, I could just tap and hold and drag that all the way up to the top. Or if I use photos the most, I can drag that up there very easily. Custom stickers now show up in the predictive text field. So right here, when I search for dog, for example, it shows me the dog emojis, but also over there, it shows me one of my custom stickers where it has detected that there is a dog in there. So that's pretty cool. If you're a CarPlay user, there's a new UI in CarPlay for sending messages with Siri. And speaking of the car, you will notice that you have this new button down here in the bottom right-hand corner where you get a QR code so that other people in the car can join in and add music to the queue, even if they don't have Apple Music, and you can make it discoverable to nearby contacts or not. You can now search for a person inside of the Maps application. So if you're sharing your location or somebody's sharing their location with you, you can now search for them in the Maps application. And when you tap on their name, it will show you their location on the map, along with it shows the exact location. It shows when it pulled that location, and next to the driving directions, there is a Find My button there to open that up and Find My. You just get a lot of details now about a specific person's location. It even shows, how long ago that location was pinged on the map. If you delete a password, there's now a recently deleted section. So just like with messages or with photos, we now have a recently deleted section where you can recover a deleted password. And if you go into your password options, you will get the cleanup automatically feature, which I did already talk about, but this is what it looks like when you actually, get a code sent to you. So it says the first time you get it, it says automatically delete verification codes after use. So you could do yes or no. So that is nice. And I've gotten multiple verification codes and they delete properly, which is very nice to have. In the App Store, if you download a large file, like a large game or application, it will show you how long until the application is done. So it doesn't show it for small applications, but if you get a big application like Call of Duty, you will notice that it now shows how long until that will be installed on your device. We have a few changes inside of the wallet application, and the first one is setting up recurring payments. So if I go to request money from somebody, like in the messages application, for example, I can go to cash to activate the Apple Cash right here. And if you swipe up, you will notice at the bottom, we now have recurring payment. And if you tap on that, you do have to have a debit card for this, but you can pay somebody on a recurring basis instead of just one time or having to do that every week or month. Also in the wallet application, the digital IDs will soon be able to be used to buy alcohol and to verify your identity at certain businesses. So it seems like Apple is going to be making a push and, pushing out the driver's license or state ID to more than just 4 states, because that sounds great, but it's only available for 4 states right now. So hopefully by the end of this year, when iOS 17 rolls out, we will have more states, but later this year, Apple is saying that businesses will start accepting the digital ID to buy things and just verify your ID. So before, just to recap, it was only able to be used, like these digital IDs could only be used at TSA checkpoints in the airport. Now, one of the most controversial features in iOS 17 is live voicemail. So what this does is it basically gives you the ability to see what the person on the other line is saying in real time, and you get the ability to pick up the call based on what they're saying if you have this turned on. However, a lot of people are just not liking this because, for one, there's a new kind of message that your device says now. So if somebody calls you and you don't pick up, it says after the tone, please say why you're calling, and it tells you that the person you're trying to reach might pick up the phone call. And for a lot of people, that's kind of off-putting. That's kind of like, well, I'm just going to stay on the line then if they're not going to pick up. So some people are like staying on the line now and leaving like a 3-minute voicemail just because it said the other person might pick up. So this is a feature you might want to disable. It's kind of confusing right now just because nobody really has this. Not many people have iOS 17 installed, and you're not going to hear that unless you have iOS 17. So, it may be worth it to turn off, but I think the feature is cool. I think it's awesome that you can pick up after, but it could be confusing for some people. In the news application, if you are an Apple News Plus subscriber, if you go to the following tab in the bottom right and then to puzzles up top, you will notice that this section is brand new in iOS 17. So this gives you crossword puzzles and crossword mini puzzles, and they're very cool. So if I continue playing the one I was on, you will see it's very advanced. So you can go between the different lines like so, and you also have this button right up here up top where you can auto check, so it checks in real time if you're right. You can check the square, check the word, check the puzzle, or you can reveal certain words, squares, or puzzle. It's really intuitive and really nice. I actually really like this a lot. If you tap on this, you can see all the prompts down there at the bottom in an easier way. In the weather application, this is pretty faint, but you will notice that under the rain stopping and the hourly forecast, we have little raindrops that are falling behind that. So that is new. Just a little difference with the animation here in iOS 17. Now, also, if you go down to like the today forecast, for example, you can really see the averages. You can kind of compare everything to the averages. So daily comparison is down here, and it shows the comparison of today versus yesterday. And if you go to the averages tab and tap on that, you will see really cool graphs here that show, kind of the difference between the average versus today. And you even get monthly averages, the summaries, and you can change what you would like to show here. And it's the same with precipitation. So like it shows a graph of the precipitation versus earlier today versus this week, or just like the averages down here of the last 30 days. All right, so I'm going to stop myself myself there. I have even more iOS 17 features and changes to share, but I will save those for a future video. But for now, we need to talk about the bugs, because this is going to be the downside of iOS 17. These are going to be some of the things that ruin iOS 17 beta 1. And I've had some pretty, really bad issues with iOS 17 beta 1. So first off, this one right here, mail is not loading. It looks like I just, took a whiteout and covered up all these emails, but that's not the case. This is just a bug where none of my emails showed up, even after closing out of the application and rebooting my device. Now, another really big issue that I'm still having on my iPhone 14 Pro is when I go into a sleep mode, when I go into my sleep focus mode, it just completely reboots my device. So take a look at this. It happens every single time. I've tried rebooting, I've tried resetting, my focus mode settings, but watch this. When I go into sleep mode, it resets my device every time. Now, for some reason, it doesn't happen on my 14 Pro Max, but the same thing happens when I go out of my sleep mode. So look, I can't even go out of it and it reboots again. So I just keep getting in this respring loop every time I enable or disable the sleep focus mode. That drives me crazy because of course I use that every single day. And then speaking of my 14 Pro, I'm also having issues with Bluetooth where my Tesla will not detect when I'm nearby. So I cannot use my phone as my key anymore. I have to carry around a key card instead of just using my phone like I was able to on iOS 16. Oh, and also if you have a shortcut where you just open up an application, like I have one for Wordle right here, which it just opens up the New York Times application, but I like this because I can search for it. But take a look at what happens when I tap on that. Yep. It resprings my device as well. So there are just a ton of issues that just constantly respring my 14 Pro. Even after rebooting, deleting apps, just trying everything I can, I'm still having so many issues with resprings here on beta 1. And perhaps the most widespread bug is inside of music. So if you set the music crossfade to be on for Apple Music, that will crash your Apple Music settings, and you cannot go into your music settings no matter how many times you reboot your device or try to go in there. So that is a bug. I guarantee you that will be fixed in beta 2. And speaking of music, when you do have the crossfade turned on, you will notice that music just randomly stops playing pretty often. Almost every time I'm in the car and I have crossfade turned on, my music will just randomly stop playing. Also with messages, a lot of people are having issues where when they text an Android user, it just says that the message failed to deliver. It actually delivers, but you get the UI bug saying it failed. I've not had that issue, but a lot of people are having that. Also, if you go into the control center and tap on the AirPlay icon up top, you will notice a UI bug where we have these little squares that still show up, even though it's supposed to be a rounded edge right there. You can kind of see more of that UI element that was not supposed to stay there. And then the whole contact photo section is really buggy here in iOS 17 beta 1. So a lot of times, like this, for example, it shows like my cropped in image up there. That's not what I cropped it to. I don't want to be looking like a wall. So, there's just random bugs here. And I also did not set these all up to look the same. So this is a bug you're seeing in real time right here. These are not all supposed to be the same. So this whole section is just a mess right now, but that's expected. This is a brand new feature, but yeah, very buggy in beta 1. Now, again, I test these betas for a living. I've done that for a very long time now. So I understand that these bugs come with a first beta, or really any beta in general. So I'm not complaining. I'm just simply showing you guys some of the bugs to expect with iOS 17 beta 1. And again, if you are having bugs, you need to report them. Go into the feedback application, like search for feedback. You will have it on your device. Search for the feedback application and report those bugs. So yeah, some of those bugs, especially like all the resprings, are definitely ruining my experience here on iOS 17 beta 1. It really makes it hard to keep using my device on a daily basis with so many issues like that. But the other thing that's ruining my experience here on beta 1 is the horrific battery drain. So if I go into my settings and go to my battery here, my battery drain is just brutal. Like, it is really bad. So take a look at how quick I am losing battery life here on iOS 17 beta 1 on my 14 Pro Max. And you will notice that while I sleep, I have a ton of usage going on here. So it looks like the mail application is just constantly running in the background and eating up battery life, even though I have push turned off. And same with Spark. So it seems like there might be a bug related to email applications specifically, but overnight I just have applications running 24/7, even when my device is on a charger, so luckily it's on a charger. Otherwise I would wake up to 0%. But even when my device is not plugged in and charging, I'm just having a really, really bad battery drain, and it seems to always be from mail. But again, as I mentioned earlier, this is expected with a first beta. You're not expecting to see good battery life with iOS 17 beta 1, so expect this to improve improve over time. Now, aside from all of the bugs and the really bad battery life, the performance honestly is not that bad. Like the overall raw performance is pretty good here in iOS 17 beta 1. Like the animations are improved throughout the OS, so it does feel smoother and faster than iOS 16 in certain scenarios and in certain areas. But, you know, those bugs can make it feel kind of slow and kind of laggy sometimes just because the fact that we're on a beta 1. However, I did run a GeekBench 6 test, and honestly, these scores are not bad at all. Like a 2601 on the single core is not bad, and the multi-core at 6537 also not bad, especially for a first beta. So performance overall, I really don't have many complaints about performance. My only complaints are with the bugs and the battery life, but I expected that anyways. All right, so now let's talk about when to expect the next iOS 17 beta to hopefully patch up some of these bugs and fix that battery life. So beta 2, the developer beta 2, is likely coming not next week, but the following week. So I would expect beta 2 to come on the week of the 19th. Now, it could be on the 20th, could be on the 21st, it could be on the 22nd. It's hard to say with Apple when it comes to these early betas for their major OS. So just expect it on the week of the 19th. And then if you're wondering about beta 3 and public beta 1, so for beta 3, if we get beta 2 on the week of the 19th, we're probably going to go 2 weeks again before seeing beta 3, which puts us right here the week of the 4th of July. So Apple's not going to release a new software update on 4th of July right there on Tuesday, but they could release something later in the week, maybe on the 5th or the 6th. We could see developer beta 3, and then we should see public beta 1 that following week, early that following week, maybe on the 10th or the 11th, is when we will see iOS 17 public beta 1. And now is a perfect time to segue into why a lot of people are not even going to be doing the public beta anymore. And that's because Apple has made the developer betas free for everybody. Now, I've seen a lot of people have theories about this, like saying, oh, Apple accidentally, just let people get this for free. So now they're just kind of just making it free for everybody. But I don't think that's the case. The reason I think Apple made developer betas free for everybody is because the betas themselves were never the reason that Apple was charging $99 a year. Like Apple is only charging $100 a year for actual developers, like developers who are going to use the development tools and publish applications in the App Store. They didn't care about you getting the developer beta early. That's not why they were charging to begin with. And I think they realized that now, all these years later, that a lot of people just want to jump on and get the betas. So they made that benefit free for everybody and not behind the $100 paywall. So now if you want to get the developer beta for free, you can do that. You just have to sign up on developer.apple.com and you do not have to pay the $100 fee. And I did just want to give an update on the Reddit client Apollo. They are shutting down on June 30th because Reddit wants to charge them $20 million a year just to have their application run and to pull from their API. So the Reddit CEO just did an AMA, and if you look at the amount of downvotes on every reply that he gives, you can see that people are irate due to just how tone deaf the CEO appears to be, and how this move will just absolutely lead a ton of users to leave the platform. Like a lot of people are going to leave Reddit after this. I did also just write a piece on the Vision Pro headset and Vision OS on my latest Apple Den newsletter. So if you're curious about my thoughts on that Vision Pro headset, you can read them over there. However, my general opinion on why I think everybody is wrong is because a lot of people are thinking that this headset is going to make people more secluded and more dystopian. It's going to be more of a dystopian device. And I'm basically just saying I disagree with that. Like we're already there with our phones, and this is going to make us, kind of more passive with the way that we interact with technology and, our environment around us. And the fact that we only have a 2-hour battery life on this headset, I just don't see it as being, something that leads people to be so secluded that they don't come out of the house, because I think our iPhones and TikTok are, we're already there in that sense. But overall, I am just absolutely blown away by the headset. I do think it is the next big thing. And again, if you want to read all of my thoughts, I can make this video 2 hours long if I wanted to, talking about that headset, but all my thoughts are over there in the Apple Den post. But anyways, guys, there you have it. That is the latest on iOS 17 beta 1, along with what is coming next. So if you want to stay updated and if you want to stay, in the loop about everything going on with iOS 17, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also leave a comment down below with your experience with iOS 17. Is it running great for you? Is it running bad? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comments below. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.